Hey, it's Andrew Brown, and welcome to the free GenAI Bootcamp. I'm here with Symoné with the Fireside Chat talking about GovTech, and specifically where it intersects with GenAI. I'm super excited to have Symoné here. And before we jump into GenAI, I just have a couple questions. Well, first, we'll let you introduce yourself, and then I'll lead up to a couple questions here.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Andrew. Super excited to be here. So my name is Symoné B. Some people know me as Bees, and I've been a GovTech professional for 16 years now. So throughout my career, my background, I started out at 16 years old, got in just by getting a tech certification. I got the CompTIA A+ certification by going to vocational school in high school. And then I got my first job at 16 years old. And then from there, went to college for computer science, and I ended up getting a internship, a help desk internship that sponsored me for my government security clearance. And I worked for the Air Force. I worked for Northrop Grumman as a cyber software engineer. And then I decided to work for Raytheon and do embedded software engineering work where I was writing code for radars. And then from there, I went overseas and worked on more radar systems, UAV systems, and now I'm back in the States, and I'm a SATCOM system engineer. So all of my work today pretty much consists around satellites and satellite communications.
That's really cool. And yeah, I want to ask a bit more about that clearance and how that paves the way for people in GovTech. But before we do that, I did hear that you recently ran a GovTech conference.
Yeah.
Like I knew about it because it was all over the socials. Can we hear a little bit about that? Is that something you want to run again?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I had a conference called GovTechCon, and it was the first conference I've ever done. Right, I've done little meetups here and there, but the conference was much bigger than what I expected. So we had it this past December 18th, 2024, in Arlington, Virginia, and we had about 1,000 people come out for our first conference, and it was great. Right, so we had different government agencies, some government contractor companies, and it was really just all about government technology, career development. So we had a few resume workshops. We had different talks about what you can expect to see in the future when it comes to cybersecurity, and our national security as well. So it was just a great conference. I had a lot of my friends come out from Twitter. I'm sure you see them on the timeline, like Tanika Askew, Kaniko Tover, Wes, JB. He came out, so a ton of people came out. So it was just a great time, and we definitely are going to have another one. And it's looking like it's going to be mid-September. So the dates are going to be announced soon, and people can get their tickets on govtechcon.com.
Well, I can definitely say that I was feeling the FOMO for that event, and so I will try to make my way to the conference. Um,
Oh,
and
we'd love to
oh,
have you.
sorry. Oh well, yeah, and I'll definitely try to come there, and if they let me, I'll bring some maple syrup too. But besides the GovTech conference, the main thing that I know you for is really helping people transition into these high paying. I believe that they're high paying GovTech roles. For those that are not very familiar with GovTech just in general, like what can you tell them as a primer or the basics of what GovTech is and
Yep.
why it should be on their radar? No pun
Yeah.
intended.
So
Earlier, but
yeah.
sorry.
So yeah. So GovTech is a government technology industry, and Tanika Askew was one of the first people I saw like saying the term GovTech. So it's just government technology, whether you are a federal government employee, state or local government employee, or an employee at a government contractor company, and you're supporting the government doing technology work. So whether that means you're doing help desk or system administration, cybersecurity, data analyst, data engineer, AI, right? So software engineering. There's all kind of different tech roles that are in this government sector. And if you work one of those tech roles, I consider that you work in GovTech, right? So it's the same thing as FinTech is finance tech, right? This is just GovTech, which is the government technology space. And for getting into this industry, the thing that's different is that the government has these different standards, right? They have baseline certifications. So if you get baseline certifications, it makes you qualified to work certain positions. So, for example, like for help desk roles, the A+ is one of the certifications that makes you eligible to work at help desk role. If you want to get full root access or administrative access to a government system, you need a Security Plus, and that's their IAT level 2 certs. So there's other certifications in there as well too. I think like CCNA, There's a few other certifications, but most people don't go after those because they're much harder than Security Plus. But they have a full like list of certifications that you can get with job titles that align to those certs. So that's what makes this industry different. So if you look at the different job requirements, it will literally say like, hey, you must have these certifications to work this job.
And that's really interesting because when we look at the tech market certifications, a lot say certifications don't matter, but you know that there are certifications out there that 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 are recognized by
Yeah.
government institutions, like you said. I believe what we're talking about are the CompTIA certifications, so A plus. I'm not sure if that's I was think the Security Plus there was the CompTIA Security Plus, and then I think you mentioned IC squared.
Yeah,
I think that's how do they pronounce it? I never thought about saying it out loud, but
yeah, so ISC squared. So they have like the CEH, they have the CEH, but that's by EC Council, right? And then ISC squared has CISSP. They also have the SSCP. So they have a bunch of different certs, and then there's of course some of the SAN certification as well that count towards this list. And then anytime you see a certification go from being a lifetime certification to a certification that needs to be renewed every 3 years, they are trying to get on that government kind of like realm to be on that level to where the government considers this as certification that aligns to these different baseline certs. So recently we saw OSCP, right? That was a lifetime certification before. Now they're moving over to, oh, it has to be renewed every 3 years. Now I'm starting to see OSCP pop up on job descriptions, and I had never seen it before in the GovTech space.
hmm. The when we're talking about GovTech, and actually before I ask this next question, when you started out, was it called GovTech, or it was just an emergent term that made it easier for people to identify the opportunities?
Yeah, you know what's funny? Like govtech.com was actually purchased back in 1998. So it's been a thing for a long time, but I just feel like, myself and Tanika, we kind of like blew up the term. But yeah, like if you go to govtech.com, there's a whole website, but it's mostly about what's happening in the industry in terms of like opportunities and contracts that are being awarded. Nobody was really talking about the term GovTech in terms of, like when people say like, oh, I work in fintech, or I work in big tech. Nobody was saying, oh, I work in GovTech. They would always just say, yeah, I work for the government, or I work in the defense industry. I work in aerospace and defense. And when I would talk about the industry, not many people would know what I would talk about. So once I saw GovTech, I was just like, okay, I'm just going to just call it GovTech from now on, and just it's easily identifiable.
And in the tech industry, a lot of folks try to gravitate towards specific tech hubs. So, I was in startups and I had a strong developer background, so people go to San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
But I think, and you might confirm this, but it seems like the DMV area is a large concentration of GovTech. So, if you want to get into GovTech, if you're closer to the tech hub of where it is being facilitated, is that a better entry into GovTech?
Yeah, but and there's other areas too, right? Of course, the DMV is the biggest GovTech hub, but there's Huntsville, Alabama. That's a huge GovTech hub. There's NASA there. There's other government contractors there. I believe FBI is there as well. Florida, of course, right? You have the NASA's headquarters down in Florida. Then you also have New Mexico. There's El Paso, Texas. There's many different places that have GovTech jobs, like El Segundo as well. There's a bunch of different government agencies and government contractors in El Segundo that are doing pretty good work. And then even in San Diego, I believe the Navy's out there too. I've never had to work out there, but if you focus on areas that have a large government presence, it's definitely easier to get those roles.
And when we're talking about a government, are we talking about federal, state, local? Like which is specific GovTech, or is there different kinds of categories of GovTech?
Yeah, it's all of them, right? So federal, state, and local.
Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously certifications is one thing that will help align a lot better. But I think you talked about like a security clearance, and at least here in Canada, if you wanted to get into GovTech of Canada, people always say become a Brinks driver because that's your easiest entry to try to get security clearance. But
Yeah.
if somebody needs to get security clearance, is that really hard to do? Is it a long process?
Yeah. Funny thing is you can do that same thing in the States, right? Like I know a lot of people that ended up getting a government security clearance by being a security guard, right? So you can literally do the same thing in the States. And the process is basically you can get a job, whether it's a security job, you can get a bank teller job where everybody at the bank has to have a clearance. That's how I got mine. But I was just in the IT department, but everybody at the entire bank had to have a clearance. So if you look for jobs on clearancejobs.com and you just look for the term ability to obtain. So if you look for that term, what you'll do, you'll end up finding the job postings where these companies they'll hire you on, and then once they hire you, they'll put you through the clearance process.
And I imagine that there are different levels of clearances. So you climb your way up, and you have to start somewhere, and then you have to have clearance at a company, and to get to the next level is with your company.
Not necessarily, right? So you could always go straight from somebody who has no clearance, and you could go to like the highest level of clearance, right? So
Oh,
let's say you wanted to go and get a job with NSA, right? NSA does not do the NSA doesn't do secret clearances or just regular top secrets. They do the highest clearance, which is a top secret with a full scope polygraph. So they're looking into your full lifestyle, right? So if somebody wanted to work with NSA or CIA or the DIA, even like FBI, right? You have to get the highest level clearance. So you could go
and
straight from there.
mm. And in terms of like what technology they use, is GovTech, are they are they adopting Gen AI, or is it on their roadmap, or are they still really using old tech, or it's a mix of old and new?
Yeah, it's really a mix of old and new, right? So there's a lot of legacy systems, but there definitely are new systems as well that are utilizing Gen AI. So like for one use case is all of the satellites that are being launched every single day, right? I believe it's something like 1,000 satellites being launched daily now. The satellites that are being launched, we need to know which ones are good satellites, which ones are, bad satellites, right? And for us to process all of that data, we're utilizing AI to process the data faster, be more efficient, and to quickly identify, good versus bad satellites and to categorize them. So there's definitely more, AI that's happening in GovTech, but I feel like it's being utilized in a different way, right? In big tech, it seems like they like to utilize AI to replace people, right? So you can see in big tech, they're like, hey, we're developing software engineers, like level 2 software engineers with AI, right? That's not happening in GovTech. They're utilizing it to make the processes more efficient and make data analysis and data engineering faster.
One of the biggest elephants in the room, probably right now, at least right now, is the fact that there seems to be some changes in the government,
Yeah.
and the question is, with a new party in power and changes in the government, is that going to affect the gov tech industry in any ways? Like, it seems like big tech companies are consulting or becoming more involved indirectly with government. So is that a boom for GovTech, or you're going to have to navigate a little bit differently? Any
Yeah.
thoughts there?
Yeah. So I think that people are definitely going to need to navigate a little bit differently. So I'm sure everybody saw Trump came out and he pretty much said like, "Hey, I'm trying to reduce the size of the federal government," right? So he came out and offered everybody a buyout, which has now been like delayed. A judge actually said like, "Hey, no, this can't happen." But with that and everything that's happening with this buyout, the federal government is definitely going to change, but they still are focusing on tech, right? So some jobs may go away, some agencies may go away, but Biden and Trump, they both basically were focusing on the same thing. They're focusing on cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity professionals get a 25% pay increase. They're putting a big focus on AI professionals as well. And they're definitely looking for software engineer and data professionals too. So if you stay around these key disciplines, there will still be opportunities there. And then in terms of if you're trying to get in this industry and you don't want to work in the federal government, I believe that what's going to happen is a lot of the opportunities are going to shift to government contractor companies, right? So instead of the government actually, basically having people working these programs full time, they're just going to put out a contract, have a government contractor company come in, do the work, and then the contract to end, and then they'll just sustain it from there. So definitely still a ton of opportunity, but I believe that there's going to be more of a boom on the government contractor side. And like you talked about before with big tech, I've been telling people this whole time. I think when I first got onto like TikTok and Instagram making videos a couple of years ago, I think the best of both worlds is to work at a big tech company but do work for the government. So these big tech companies do have cleared roles at the government, and at their company, and they will sponsor you for a clearance. So Amazon, AWS, they sponsor clearances. Google sponsors clearances. Microsoft does. And then it looks like, Meta is trying to do something with the government. So, we'll see what type of roles they end up bringing on.
Okay, I guess the thought there is that that would create more career resilience because now you're stacking your opportunities. So
Exactly.
if it's that makes a whole lot of sense there. In terms of technology, and again, it's probably gonna be it depends, but people are gonna ask me this. It's like, what exactly are they using? Are they using open source tools? Are they more focused on managed services? Is it mix and match?
Yeah, from what I've been seeing, like on the job descriptions, they're very vague, right? Some of them are just like, hey, if you have any experience with AI tools, that's a nice to have, right? Like they're not even being very specific yet on what exactly, AI skills they're looking for. Of course, they do have some AI ML job postings, and for those, they're looking for people that have master's degrees. But if you're just out here learning the Gen AI, Gen AI technology, different frameworks, and how you can utilize like policy towards AI. I think that's going to put you ahead of a lot of people. And then, as we can see as well, a lot of different vendors are coming out with their own certification. So, of course, Google has the Gen AI certs, Microsoft has the Azure AI certifications, AWS has AI certifications as well. So, if you pick up these certifications, I think that this will help you in the GovTech space too. I believe we're going to see a lot more job descriptions as saying, hey, you need this specific AI certification to work this role.
And just to speak on the cloud side of it, for those that have yet to dig a bit deeper, when you go into the cloud certifications, you'll notice that every provider has regions or infrastructure specifically for GovTech. Like it's either isolated or it has very specific. Oh, sorry. Would you like to speak a bit more to that?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know a lot of people if they know about it, but there's a big program called GovCloud, right? And with GovCloud, it's not just one company; it's pretty much all of the companies working on it together. It's Google, Oracle, Microsoft, and Amazon all working on GovCloud together. So again, right, those are those opportunities that you can work at these companies and then do work for the government as well. But yes, definitely completely isolated, completely separate cloud infrastructure that they've developed for the government.
Hmm. In terms of resume building, is there any suggestions that people should be like if someone already is in a technical role, is like can they rework their resume to apply? Or sorry, a better question would probably be is if you are a veteran, do you have a better on ramp into getting to GovTech or the opportunities for everybody?
Yeah, yeah. So veterans, of course, have great opportunities, especially the ones that are coming out with a government security clearance already. But even if you don't have a government security clearance, maybe you don't have a tech background at all, and you're trying to transition into the industry, I always tell people to focus on their transferable skills because I'm sure everybody's doing something that utilizes some sort of technology. Maybe you're having to analyze something on the day to day. You're using your problem solving skills. So if you utilize those transferable skills and you're able to speak to them in the interview, and of course you have your skills and the certifications as well, it makes it easier for you to transition into these roles.
And just to tie back to Gen AI a bit more, and I think you did answer this a bit, but I'm going to ask and see if we can squeeze any other kind of magic answer out of here. But Gen AI in specific for GovTech, is there any kind of specific models they're looking to use? Is the use case just optimization and data analysis? What's been the word out there with Gen AI?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any specific models that they're looking to use. I think it is just more like optimization, efficiency. So I haven't seen it personally, right? Because I'm not an AI ML engineer, but as I'm looking on my job search, I'm literally just seeing them say like, "Hey, if you've used any AI tools, that's great. We would love to have you."
So, but probably not DeepSeek, right? So that's the one. one
Yeah, yeah, definitely not DeepSeek, right? You know, you put DeepSeek on your resume, they'll be like, yeah, let's probably throw that person out. Let's throw that resume out.
So, but yeah, I think we got really good coverage here, and I think you've answered all my possible questions. And I think that we have good answers here. Is there anything else that you want to leave our boot campers with that they might want to know about GovTech?
Yeah, yeah. I would just say that as you can see everything that's happening right now, definitely have an optimistic outlook on the industry, right? Things are going to change. But I do believe that things are just going to stay in the same course that they've been going before, right? Headed towards AI, cybersecurity, software development. We obviously need infrastructure engineers. So if you just continue to focus on those different disciplines, you'll be pretty much good to go. And we didn't even really speak on it, but the government, everything in the government runs off of Red Hat Linux. So if you know Red Hat, you're pretty much good to go.
And they have certifications as well. So
Exactly.
we've heard Cisco certs, CompTIA
Yeah.
certs, ICS squared certs, and Red Hat, all the fun ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like a very good investment, and that kind of makes sense. That when I see people at the DMV, that they're targeting these certifications,
Yep.
because
Yeah. Yeah. And the DMV, like it's really common to find certification boot camps. Like you could go somewhere for 5 days and it's a certification boot camp for you to just get the cert. And it's because it's required by the job. Like so the government and government contractors, they will literally pay for their employees to go like to these 5 day boot camps because they have to have these certs for the jobs.
in terms of just educational training, do you happen to have any yourself or specific recommended resources?
Yeah, yeah. So I do have my own training that I help with as well. So I do more career development, but I do help teach people about how they can become IT support engineers and system administrators. So we do have some Security Plus training and a little bit of Red Hat training that we have out there. But yeah, you can definitely utilize that, and you can learn it in my community. I have a monthly community that's hosted on School. And then for any other resources, right, I always recommend Professor Messer is free on YouTube, right? There's nothing wrong with using his free resources. And then there's some other resources out there as well, like O'Reilly's resources and things like that. So, I always recommend that people end up using what they believe is just going to help them reach their goal, right? Whether it's free or paid, or maybe like a hybrid situation, right? Do what's best for you so you can get that certification, gain the tech skills, and then get into the industry.
If people want to follow you, what's the best place? Is it LinkedIn, X, or is TikTok still available? Is YouTube
Yeah,
Short?
well, it's still on my phone, right? So I'm on all platforms. So I'm on Instagram, TikTok, X. I don't really post too much on LinkedIn, but I'm on LinkedIn as well and on YouTube. So if you just search Simone Bees on any of those major platforms, you can find me. And then I'll also give you like my LinkedIn as well because you have to spell my name right or it just won't come up.
Makes sense. Yeah, I appreciate your time here, and thank you for sharing everything you have here. And that's it. So we'll see everyone soon in class. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks. See you later.